Hello there. Have you set up CrashPlan, but now you're wondering if it's backing up as expected? I'm Brian, and in this video, I'll show you how to check the status of your backup in the CrashPlan client. The first way you can determine the status of your backup is by checking on the archive size. You can compare the size to the amount of data that you're backing up and determine if the size seems appropriate. Start by opening the CrashPlan app. Once you've opened it, you can find the selected size next to the device name. This is how much data is on your machine and in your backup selection. Now that you know how much is selected for backup, click on Settings to access the Settings window. On the Destinations tab, you can find the space used for each destination. This is the size of the archive that is stored on the destination. Compare this number to the selected size to determine if it seems to be within a reasonable range. Keep in mind that your archive is stored in a compressed state, so it may be smaller than the size of the data you have selected. If there's a lot of duplicate data on the endpoint, that will also reduce the comparative size. You can also check on the status of your backup by looking at the backup activity. From the home screen of the CrashPlan app, we can quickly determine the current status of the backup by checking the status symbol. You can find this next to each destination. The status may be different for each, since the backups run independently of each other. You can also find these by clicking on the CrashPlan icon in the system tray or menu bar. There are a number of symbols that may be shown in these locations. A moving blue circle indicates that CrashPlan is currently backing up. A green check inside a circle indicates that backup has completed. There may be files to back up at the next backup interval, but it has backed up everything it needed to at the current time. Other symbols indicate various reasons why the backup is not running. If you see these, you may need to take steps to get your backup going. You can also check backup activity by accessing CrashPlan's history log. This is a log file that CrashPlan writes that tracks all of its backup history. On Mac, click Window at the top of the screen, then select History. On Windows, you would click on Tools at the top of the app, and then History. In this log, you should see when backups start, how much data is being backed up, and the status when they stop. If the ending messages say completed, then everything that was in the to-do list at that time was backed up. If they say stopped, then there was more to do, but the backup had to stop for some reason. Sometimes you'll see completed, but then it will say there were a number of files that were unable to be backed up. This indicates that CrashPlan was unable to get a usable copy of the file to back up, and the files will be put back into the to-do list for the next backup. If you see this message a lot, you may need to look into what files aren't being backed up. The CrashPlan support site has articles titled Unable to Back Up Files for each OS, and those will walk you through how to determine what isn't backed up. The final place that you can look to check the status of your backup is the Restore window. From the app's home screen, you access the Restore window by clicking on the Restore Files button. Any data that appears in the Restore window has been backed up to your archive. If you put a check next to the top level folder within your backup and let it calculate how much data there is to restore, you can compare it to what you would expect to be in your backup. You now have several ways to check the status of your backups, and know where to find those in CrashPlan. If your backups don't appear to be completing, or there isn't as much data as you would expect, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support team. We're always happy to help.